California, just outside of San Francisco.
Oh, nice. That's not too bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to get some rain. It's temperature's starting to drop now, so we're going to get some rain the rest of this week. So a little bit later, going to get a golf round in before the rain comes and kicks the season.
Good, man. Good. That's awesome. So, are you out there coaching and playing?
I'm coaching right now. I still play. I still play on tournament teams and things like that. But I retired, so to speak, from professional baseball in 2017.
Hmm.
Still get contacted, every so often about coming back out to play. But kind of got a girlfriend, got a dog. You
Yeah,
know.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Um, oh, what's up? Haha. Yeah, I mean, if you're not comfortable doing video, that's cool.
It's on my phone, so I got to figure out a way to place it up.
Okay. Yeah, if you turn it sideways too, then it'll get that full screen action. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, no worries.
Uh, so who did you play for before then? Give me a little background.
Well, I started with independent ball in Texas,
Hmm.
and then I could have kept grinding it out there, and just trying to work my way up to affiliated ball, but got the opportunity to go overseas. Baseball club out of the Netherlands contacted me, and I thought, why not? It was
For sure.
it's the number one league in Europe. It is professional baseball. Everybody gets paid. It's kind of equivalent to minor league ball, affiliated ball here in the States.
Hmm.
I went out there and I absolutely loved it. They give you a salary. They pay for your living. They gave you a car.
Dang.
Yeah, they really took care of you. So I was like, I loved it so much. You were being paid to travel and play baseball, right? So I just kept going back, and I wound up playing overseas for 7 seasons. Played in the Netherlands, other parts of Europe, Australia, just bouncing around the world, enjoying it, man.
Hmm. That's awesome. Did you meet a guy named not Marty Tonjes, Marty Niehoff while you were over there?
Niehoff sounds familiar. The last name sounds familiar. The first
He
name
he's uh he's the coach of the national team of the Netherlands national team.
now, because when I was there, it was Steve Janssen and who else? Steve Janssen and also goodness gracious, the coach for the Giants, or he used to be the coach for the Giants, first base coach. Yeah, his name is escaping me.
Well, when I was talking to him last year, he was anyways.
Okay.
So maybe it was not the main national team. Maybe it was like the 18 and under team. But yeah, because I was actually supposed to go over there and work with them, and
Okay.
then it never came through. But like, that was the guy I was talking to, and he's been a coach over in the Netherlands for at the national level for years. So I wonder if maybe he's not the head coach, but one of the assistants.
Yeah, the last name is definitely ringing a bell, but the first name escaped me. I know Steve Janssen stopped coaching the national team in might have been 2018, so he could be the new guy. I haven't really followed up on it since I've been gone, so it's quite possible he could be the new guy.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's a small world, man. Because yeah, I lived over there for 4 years. I spent a lot of time over there. So
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
So so one of the things we talked about in on LinkedIn was like having the kids or having athletes in general like reflect on the times that they've been successful before,
hmm
and then that like restores their confidence that they can do it now. So like, are you when you talk about that, was that like journaling, or was that just like visualization, reflection? How exactly do you like teach somebody to do that, or when you're coaching, how do you get them to do that?
More visualization, more recollecting the times when you were successful. Not necessarily journaling, so to speak, but everybody remembers, or typically every athlete remembers the times when they were successful, especially in pressure situations. For example, for me, if it's a situation where I'm in the outfield or the infield and the game's on the line and, nerves start to creep in, you got a big crowd, you just start reflecting back to college ball. You start reflecting back to earlier other games in your professional career where you overcame those situations, and it just inadvertently calms you down because you just kind of think, hey, I've been here before, I've done it before, no problem.
Mm-hmm. So when you're teaching the kids that to do that, do you have them write down what, like before the game, perhaps, like have them write down their like three best moments in baseball, and then so that they're kind of like they have those thoughts in their head as you roll into it, or is it just something that you bring up throughout the game and throughout the season?
I would bring it up throughout the game, throughout the season, because the fact of the matter is there's so many dynamics and variables in baseball and things that can happen in a game. It's hard to pinpoint that those particular situations will occur. So they can essentially maybe write down three things that might or might not happen, but then something different happens and say it's not one of the three things they wrote down. But if it's in pressure situations and stressful situations that occur, say clutch hitting with the game on the line, things like that, usually a player will remember if you prompt them to, they will remember a time when they overcame that, because those are situations that usually stick in your head. You don't necessarily games where you win 4 for 5 and you beat a team 10-0 doesn't necessarily sit within your mindset. But times where you got the big hit with the game on the line, you made the final catch to win a game, things like that, those things usually stay with you throughout your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I was just telling. So I work with this kid who's a baseball player, and I was literally just talking about one time I was coaching third base, and the third baseman on the other team, this kid was not a talented athlete, like by any means. You just looked at him and you're like, man, he doesn't really even look like an athlete. But he made it was the semifinals of a big tournament, the Triple ABA tournament out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is a summer league tourney every year. And we were in the semifinals against this team, and he just the whole entire game was saying to himself out loud, hit it to me, come on, hit it to me, and was like pounding his glove, and you could just tell this dude was locked in. And he made three unbelievable plays that game, like plays that would never happen 3 times in a row the way he did it. And I was just like, dang, like, but knowing what I know now, like that was him focusing his mind by saying, hit it to me, and pounding his glove, and just like being in that ready mindset over and over and over again. And I was like, man, now that is a championship mindset. And that's how you go about actually like giving yourself the best chance at making those plays over and over again.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like what you were just saying, like, like thinking about those moments where you were doing your best and then bringing that into the game right then and there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I remember one of the outfielders on my college team. He used to do
Where'd you play at college?
St. Anselm. It was Division II school just north of Boston. So they can any 10 conference. So that's pretty much every New England school that's a Division II school, from New York all the way up through. There was nobody in all the way up through New Hampshire. So it's all good. So yeah, I play football and baseball up there. But my one of my when I was an underclassman, one of the seniors, he used to always come in and he would just tell the pitcher, have them keep hitting me the ball, keep serving them up to me, things like that. Not only was he hyping himself up, but that also instilled confidence in the pitcher. It's like, hey, I don't have to make a perfect pitch because my outfielders got me.
Yeah. Dude, I remember when I would pitch, I played at Indiana State, and there would be some times, I don't know what it was, like instinctual, or like I would throw a pitch and I would notice, oh man, I got this guy. And I would know exactly what pitch to throw on the next one. And I would look to my third baseman and I'd be like, hey man, be ready for this rollover right here. And I would literally, like the next pitch, I would get him to roll it over to the third baseman. And I'm like, I don't know what exactly the reason was behind that. It's just like I knew as soon as I threw it, I saw something in the hitter, and I'm like, okay, if I throw him this pitch, he's going to roll it over to my third baseman. And my third baseman was always ready when I told him, hey, be ready for this one, or shortstop, second baseman, whatever. I would turn around and I would say that. And one, it would make me want to throw that pitch. I would already see that pitch in my mind and I would want to repeat it. But then on top of it, now I'm asking those guys to be a little bit more focused as well. And they're like, oh, okay, like Pazik is about to throw this pitch and I should be ready,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that guy, your outfielder, it was the outfielder that would say that?
Yeah, it was a center fielder at the time. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. What position did you play?
I was utility. Pretty much most professional starts was either at center, short, or third.
Hmm.
Uh, did have spot starts as second. Towards the end of my career, moved over to left. So yeah, utility guy wherever they needed.
So being in different positions all the time, how does your routine change from like going from one spot to the next?
Um,
Or did it?
for starters, leadership. I mean, from an outfield perspective, if you're playing center field, you're basically shifting the outfield based on what you're seeing with the hitters. You're the captain out there, so to speak. If I roll over to third base or second base, for example, then it just focusing on doing my job in particular, being where I'm supposed to be or whatever, wherever the catcher and or shortstop is telling me to be. Um, Besides that, I used to have to work a little bit harder on the infield because outfield was very natural. Me being even a hitting coach now, one thing that I felt I was very good at doing is reading hitters, studying hitters, and studying what their tendencies are, where they're most likely to hit the ball. Occasionally, they might beat the odds, but by majority, where they're going to hit the ball just based on their mechanics in correlation with how my pitcher's throwing. And that's what I teach the young kids now, especially my young outfielders, because you find so many young outfielders and they'll just stand there deadlocked, like almost the grass is dying where they are because they're in the same spot every single time. And it's just like you have to pay attention to what the hitter is doing. All right, so you take your pitcher, you know how hard your pitcher throws, you know what pitches your pitcher throws, and you correlate that with the bat speed of the hitter, the tendency of the hitter. Does it seem like he's really keeping his hands inside the ball and he's an inside out hitter? Does it seem like he's stepping in the bucket, his hands are getting out over the plate and he's going to roll over everything, or he's dead pull in layman's terms? You got to pay attention to these things. How quickly was he on the pitch that your pitcher just threw? Was he ahead or was he extremely behind? If he was extremely behind, why are you playing down the left field line if he's a righty hitter? You have to pay attention to these things to put yourself in the best position to make a play. So that's the mentality of the outfield. Infield, it would change because I would just, especially preparation, just taking a lot more ground balls and just making sure, because confidence comes with being prepared, making sure that I was ready to take on that role in any given day. Because primarily I had more starts in the outfield than the infield.
Mm. That makes me think about a couple of things, but one is the going back to those kids getting stuck and the grass is just dying underneath them. When I was the head coach of that summer team, I would always tell them, I'm like, now is the time to try stuff that is super uncomfortable. I'm like, I want to see you guys making drastic shifts on the field.
Mm-hmm.
If they have, going back to that guy that's like a pull hitter down the line, right? If he is a pull hitter down the line and like be standing on that left field line, I'm like, do something crazy, make them make the mistake or make them adjust their game to ours, or just let them hit it right into us. So,
Yeah.
And over time, it was kind of cool to see them actually, if we had one of our harder throwers on the mound, and so our shortstop is shifting over to almost like standing on second base or standing right behind second base.
Yeah.
And then the second baseman obviously shifts over as well. And like, then we have the whole left side of the field open, but that's forcing that guy to get on top of the ball and almost roll it over to the left side. So, which is, I mean, pretty hard to do intentionally, I would
Yeah.
say. But so it was good to see them actually making those adjustments. And I think that's cool that that's what you're asking your guys to do is, correlate exactly like you said, correlate the pitcher with the hitter and then who you are, taking that into account. There's a lot of different things that you got to take into account, kind of like with golf. It's the same thing. Before you walk up to the ball, you have to take into account the water, take into account the sand traps, the wind,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in the rough or in the fairway, and then go ahead and make a decision and play from there. So it's like there's a lot of different variables that you got to take into account. So constantly reminding them of those, for
Yeah.
sure. So you coach teams, and then as well as you're a hitting instructor as well.
Yeah, so I'm the hitting coach at the high school that I coach at. Like I said, we just won NCS. That's basically our version of state championship. In California, unfortunately, because there's so many schools, you don't have a statewide champion. You have sections. So we're the Northern California section. The teams in LA is the Southern California section. Uh,
Mm,
and that's as far as you can go. We can incorporate something where you have a vote and you bring the top 8 teams for a quick something. I don't know, but the farthest we can go is our Northern California section.
mm,
And won that last year, beating a private school, Bishop O'Dowd, based out of Oakland, in the state finals. But yeah, hitting coach over that program. So the average season like 324.
gotcha. So you guys have a pretty winning culture then over there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've only been there. This was only my this is actually my first season there. It was the first championship in school history, so that was huge. But before that, I was still playing professional baseball, and then I still coach travel baseball and do hitting instruction when I can.
Hmm.
But I prefer the more team atmosphere because when I'm coaching, it's not so just about teaching the kids the X's and O's of baseball, but really trying to build them to become good young men of society. I take pride in that. So I would always steer on the side of coaching in a team setting than an individual private lesson setting. I'll do it, but it's not my priority.
Hmm. One thing you brought up earlier was leadership. What's like a strategy you teach them in terms of leadership, how to be a better leader on the team and outside of the team as well?
Well, I think it starts with understanding that you're representing your family, you're representing your team, you're representing your community, you're representing yourself. So when you think about it from those, um, hopefully that inadvertently causes you to make good choices, to consider every action that you do, is a reflection on all of these entities. You know what I mean? So that's one way we do it, but we also we really focus hard on teaching the kids accountability, perseverance, that your actions have consequences, both positive and negative. We definitely hold our kids accountable over at the high school, and even my travel ball kids, um, we get leadership out of the fact that, if one kid is being silly, say he's cursing too much in the field or something, the whole team suffers for him. I was like, okay, either you guys are going to get this right or you're going to become a track team, you know?
Hmm.
And that's a bit old school teaching. It's kind of funny because, for example, there's another high school nearby that a good friend of mine coaches, and he said that his kids aren't allowed to even rake the field because
Really
the parents of that community sees it as punishment or labor. I was like, are you joking right now?
interesting.
Is that a joke? I mean, is that literally a joke? Are you fucking me right now? It's just like part of growing up as a baseball player, what do you do as an infielder? You rake your position.
Yeah.
As a pitcher, you rake your mound. That is your spot. You get that good and well. I mean, yes, you have ground crew and everything, but you learn how to do your job, rake your spot or whatever.
Hmm. That's
But
unbelievable.
that doesn't fly with us, because the fact of the matter is when these kids graduate high school and they get from under mommy and daddy's thumb, they're going to have to be big boys and big girls, right? So if you don't teach them the basic skills of accountability and overcoming adversity and, the teamwork aspect of it, for me, loving others as you love yourself, things like that, that then you really put yourself at a disadvantage when you leave high school because these are things that you're going to have to know going into the real world. Even if you think about it from a baseball perspective, so many parents spend so much money on private lessons and things like that to teach them the physical fundamentals. But if your kid doesn't build these basic mental skills, what happens, say, hypothetically, if he gets into a college environment where everybody is physically good as a baseball player? What will separate you from that point? You have to be mentally strong. You have to learn how to overcome adversity. You have to learn how to earn your position, get rid of this idea of entitlement. Earn everything you get, then you will be able to work with something.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think going back to what you said about with leadership, the one thing that I've read and studied is that there's research behind how, in order to create kind of that necessity for excellence, and in terms of leadership, you want to connect it to, hey, I'm doing this for me, one, but then I'm doing it for my team, two, and then bigger than my team, I'm doing it for my school, or I'm doing it for my community, or I'm doing it for my family, you know? So, like, you have all three of those levels that you're
Mm.
hitting on, and that, you know, is inadvertently then creating better choices out of your athletes. So I thought that was cool that you brought that up. And did you know the research behind it?
No, that's just how, that's
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And like, that's one thing that elite performers all do, is they do themselves, hey, I'm doing this for me, but I'm doing this for my team, and then on top of that, I'm doing it for something bigger than my team. And actually, at my high school that I went to, Niles West, it's out of Chicago. It's one of like the best high schools. I think Niles is like the number one place to raise a family, but
okay.
um, they talk about that consistently. Like, always keep the administration in mind. Keep the administration in mind. Like, whether you're a teacher or a student, like be a good person for like the school and the community, and then as well as yourself as well. So I think that's pretty cool that that's one thing that you brought up over and over again. Another one is like, when in terms of like, so they can't do anything physical, like, because they see it as punishment. So how do you then, I mean, one thing that I used to do is we would have values on our team.
Hmm.
So our values were toughness, respect, integrity, be in the moment, and energy. We were the Indians, so it spelled out tribe. And that was like one of the other ways that I would kind of punish them, I guess, or just talk to them about like behavior change. Because I remember my first year, I had them doing all planks down the line for like not picking up a guy after he moved a runner over. And I was like, not one high five, really, guys? I'm like, all right, fine. Like, we'll all go down to the bullpen and we'll just be doing planks. I wound up forgetting about them. I think they did like a 15-minute plank. But, and like the next year after we implemented those values and stuff like that, I was like, hey, you guys, like, how is this being respectful towards each other if we can't even pick a guy up for moving him over? I'm like,
Hmm.
there is zero respect there. And if this is one thing that we all agreed on these values at the beginning of the season. I'm like, we're not going to be great unless we actually live out these values and have championship behaviors. So
Hmm.
that was actually just as effective, because it was asking for behavior change and not necessarily just interrupting their behavior. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, at our high school, we definitely still do physical discipline, so to speak. The high school I was referring to is a high school that's a few miles down the road, and it's an affluential area. So I don't know if the parents there just kind of didn't want their kids to be feel like they're being punished at all, which I still don't get that logic, but
Hmm.
whatever.
No, I
But
like the earn everything mentality that you
you
were
have
talking about.
you have to, because we live. This is unfortunate with this generation of kids, is the idea of entitlement is just through the roof. You know, they show up and like, oh, I made the team. I deserve the right to play. I earned the right. I deserve the right to play. No, you earned the right to play. You know what I mean? I even teach that in my travel ball team as well. Um, instilling that you have to earn everything you get, because we would be doing the kids a disservice if, like I said, they get all the way through the teen years in high school thinking that they're playing is entitled and they don't have to earn it, because then if they get to a level of somewhat high level form of baseball, whether it's junior college ball, regular college baseball, four-year school, excuse me, professional, whatever, and they've never learned how to earn anything in their life, then unless they're just that rare guy that's just dropping bombs, a Aaron Judge freak of nature, then they're in trouble because they don't know how to work for anything. And you think mommy and daddy's gonna walk up to a college coach and be like, "You need to play my son." Was How is that gonna work out for
Yeah, it's not.
him? There's gonna be thousands of kids waiting to take that spot, right? So you really do these kids a disservice when you don't teach them these basic principles of having to earn their playing time, having to earn their spot, you know, how to overcome those challenges, you know, because that sets them up just as important as their physical skills. You know, how many physical players, I'm sure you know, and you some guys that come to mind that physically speaking were very talented, but mentally they didn't have it, which is why they didn't make it. They didn't go very far. That's why it's so huge that you were mentally tough in this game. You know, it helps you in baseball, it helps you in life.
100%. And that's actually University of Maine softball that I work with this year. Their motto is earn your success for that reason. Like they want to earn every single win that they get, every single pitch that they win. They want to earn it. They don't want anything given to them this year. And I think that's awesome. And then also University of Northern Colorado that I work with, they only have 3.5 scholarships for a Division I baseball team. You know, so like if they win 10 games, you know, like per scholarship, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then, but if like say, you know, that's basically like what, or let's say if they win 35 games, that's like 10 wins per scholarship, right? If another team does that, they would have to get like 130 wins in order to have it per scholarship, which obviously doesn't make any sense. So like they literally have to earn everything. And when they're recruiting kids, they say like, hey, like, you know, the shirt that you're going to get from us, like you've earned that shirt. Like the shorts, same thing. Cleats, same thing. The field, same thing. Like they all have to rake their positions after practice. Every single one of them cleans up the field. This is a Division I university, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing though. And when they leave there, they're ready for life though. Like the kids from the Northern Colorado alumni, they come back and they're all like amazing people and students of life and society because they learned how to earn it basically in college.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's really cool that you bring that up with them over and over again to just keep earning it, man.
Mm-hmm.
So what's in terms of like getting them out on the field, what's one behavior that they do that shows you like, okay, like this guy is earning his playing time?
Selflessness, you know, behavior. So as far as physical behavior, it's just like he doesn't have to be perfect on the field, you know, but you can always tell as a coach, the guy is giving 100% effort, physically speaking, on the field in practice, and the guy who's just, you know, going through the motions. So if they are putting in the effort, if they're in the field, if, you know, they're taking ground balls correctly, full speed, diving, trying to make plays, if they're picking up their teammates, if they are like one player comes to mind last year before and after practice, you know, how many balls that kid was hitting off the tee. Who knows? I mean, this kid was just, and nobody would tell him to do that. You know, I wasn't telling him, hey, you need to get some extra work in. It was just that kid's work ethic. He was just before practice, after practice, just hitting. And it showed, you know, he hit over 300 for the season. I mean, that type of stuff, doing the little things, you know, also little things, even not necessarily related to baseball itself, like, you know, not being the last guy on the field and the first guy off, you know, cleaning up, taking out the bases, you know, taking greens, you know, not just bolting out there so you don't do anything, things like that to show integrity, you know, his character, all that stuff we pay attention to in determining who's going to be on that field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that kid that hit over 300, there's this guy that I used to play with. His name was Will Krug. He went to University of Illinois, Champaign, and he was a walk-on there at a Division I university, you know, and you know how hard it is to play as a walk-on. Well, he would hit in the cage after every single practice and every single game. He would go to the cage and take some extra hacks. And this guy, not only did he have that work ethic on the field, but off the field, he was a biochem double major, you know. So he graduated from University of Illinois Champaign with that degree, with two majors, and then also after his freshman year, his sophomore year, he got over a 90% scholarship because he was playing his butt off and actually like helping the team, so he got rewarded for his efforts, and he earned that. But that was because he was in the cage every single day working on his craft. What do you think the difference is between those guys that like actually get in there and do that and do the extra work without being told? Like, what do you think happened to them, or why do they go do that? And then some other guys, it's like pulling teeth to get them to do extra work.
They're hungry. They're hungry. They're hungry for success in the game and success in life, because when you have that hunger about you, as a ball player, even now as a coach, but now I'm crossing over into golf. I actually just won a golf tournament yesterday.
Nice,
So
congrats.
yeah, thank you. I got to keep competing. I'm a competitor. I like competing. So, I coach. I watch the other kids play baseball. Like, I got to go compete. Okay, now I'm going to play some golf. But anyway, when I was playing professional baseball, even when I was playing college baseball, if I was struggling, even if I wasn't struggling, I still got my work in. But if I was struggling, if something didn't feel right, I did not leave the cage that night until it felt right. Would not happen, because that was that hunger inside of me. I was striving for excellence. I was striving to be successful. When I was in high school, there's not a single person at that high school. I went to high school in Atlanta, Georgia, big 5A school, same conference as Jason Hayward, so we had several guys in our conference that went on to play Major League Baseball, so it was a very talent heavy conference. There's not a shot in the world that anybody in that team. I was decent in high school. There's not a shot in the world that anybody at that high school would have thought that I would have turned out to be the guy in that high school that had the longest professional baseball career, right? But it was just my hunger for success, my drive to not let what anybody said affect me. Oh, you're not big enough, tall enough, this, that, and the other. They didn't know me. They didn't control my destiny. They didn't control my future. They weren't going to stop me from being successful. And when you have that kind of hunger, you don't accept failure. You stay in the cage until you get it right. You throw extra bullpens, whatever you got to do to dial in whatever you need to dial in. You do not accept failure because you're that hungry. As opposed to a player who doesn't put in that work, is one of two guys. Either it's a guy who thinks he's already there when he's not. He thinks he already has it figured out, so he doesn't have to put in the extra work. But then somewhere along the line, he gets a rude awakening that, hey, I wasn't there. I should have worked harder. And by then it might be too late. Or you just have the guy who just – he might say he cares, but he doesn't care that much to the point where he's willing to put that extra effort in. So to answer your question, it's more of a hunger thing. The guys that are truly hungry for success in the game are the guys who put that extra work in.
When was that switch flipped in your head to where like nobody else is going to control my destiny?
It was pretty late, actually. It was probably halfway through my senior high school season. My senior high school season didn't go as planned. It's kind of funny because I played college football anyway, as well as baseball, but I decided not to play football, high school football, my senior season, and focus on baseball because I had already started getting contacted by D1 schools my junior year in high school baseball. So senior year, I put a little pressure on myself, but I also let what people thought about me affect me way too easily. There was also another kid that played my position my senior year, and he was a kid, not that physically speaking, you wouldn't have thought that talented, but he definitely had heart and he definitely worked hard, and it was kind of like a Rudy, everybody rooting for him moment. You know what I mean? So it's not like they hated me, but they were really rooting for him. So now I got more pressure on myself. Not anybody really rooting for me to be successful, and it turned out not to be the greatest senior season. And it was kind of at that moment towards the end of it, and I still got scholarship offers or whatever, where that switch happened, and I said, you know what? This season happened because you allowed what other people thought and their mentality and who they were rooting for or whatever affect you negatively. And it ended up taking you out of your game, and you didn't have nearly as good of a season as you could have had. So it was at that moment where I just decided, I'm never going to let what people say affect me again. I know what I'm capable of. I know the abilities I've been blessed with. I know what I'm striving to achieve. So now it's time to get it and not let what anybody says or do affect me from this point on. And that's when I really started to hit my stride. I would say it started to kick in and switch over in a positive way, definitely halfway through college. Because freshman year, you're still getting used to the speed of the game and things like that. But sophomore to junior year, then that's when I really started to hit my stride.
Mm-hmm. So you just had a conversation in your head.
It was just in my head and through prayer, because I'm a man of faith. So through prayer and, just refocusing my attention where it mattered most, and not just understanding that. And I think even like Will Smith, for example, he said this in a quote once. He said, "Why do you give so much time and attention and focus to what people think about you when they have no control on the outcome of your life?" So that really started to hit home with me. And then when I did that, when I started caring less about what other people thought and staying true to what was placed in my heart and what I wanted to be successful at, then the sky was the limit.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot, actually, like WWOPS, WWOPT. What would other people say? What would other people think? And we put way too much time into those two things when really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's all what you think, and it's what you say, and it's what you do that's going to determine your future and your present. So getting back to that over and over again is huge. So it's kind of funny the conversations you have in your head, though, and which ones stick and which ones don't. And it sounds like this one stuck because you kind of you didn't hit rock bottom necessarily, but you hit like a point of awareness is what I call it. And then that's when you're like, okay, either I got to change, or like I'm going to be done with baseball, be done with sports, really. And you're like, all right, you fell back on your competitiveness is what it sounds like. And you just got back to competing and learning, teaching yourself how to compete at a higher level.
Absolutely.
And so now it's like your job as a coach, you're like trying to draw that out of your players and even more out of yourself. So what's like one thing you're working on right now? Maybe it's in golf, or maybe it's as a coach that you're taking over into like baseball and you're helping those athletes with that.
That I'm working on, I'm taking over. Just I would say the biggest thing that I'm trying to work on them on, which was always a struggle of mine and a struggle with many athletes, is turning a page on bad performances. Really learning how to have a short-term memory on the field, right? And many scouts say that too. That's one aspect that they look for is, if they're a good scout and things like that, is not just pure talent, but bad games are going to happen in any sport, right? But who's the kids who can go 0 for 4 one day and then come back and go 4 for 4 like nothing ever happened? Or who's the kid that unfortunately that 0 for 4 becomes 0 for 34 because they can't get their way. They can't get out their own way. They are maybe too stubborn to take advice, too stubborn to change. And I can hear to that because there was a time where I was very stubborn. In some cases, I can still be a little stubborn if I feel like for example, as a professional, if another coach would try to teach me something, a drastic change to my swing, it's very hard to do, especially if it's a swing that got me there. It was very hard, but I would take the advice. I was never disrespectful, but it would be hard. It would be very hard to just make that switch because you're just like, this is what I've done for so long. It's been successful. Why don't I need to change now? But more than anything else, just getting them to understand that failure is a part of the game. And all-stars consider the 300 hitter, right? What does that mean? That means he fails 70% of the time. Game of failure, right? In other sports, the same said, if you shoot 50% as a three-point shooter, you're pretty freaking good three-point shooter, right? But that still means you fail 50% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So really learning how to have a short-term memory and understand that you still have the ability to be successful and don't let that one performance derail your entire season. Because many kids do that. They just can't get it out of their head. They can't have a short-term memory.
Mm-hmm. So so when it comes to golf, since you're a big golfer right now, how do you get over a bad shot? Like, what do you do to kind of get yourself ready for the next shot after you say you shank one, or you just don't hit a really good shot, the shot that you wanted anyways?
Uh, you're talking about golf now. Yes, with golf, it would just be running, understanding, like, 'cause I've been to PGA events and things like that. First of all, understanding that the best in the world hit horrible shots. You don't always see them on the Golf Channel or ESPN, but it does happen for sure. So understanding that you're not alone in that situation, because I think that's what happens in golf specifically. It's like people, they feel like they're the only one that's shanking balls, or they're the only one that happens to, right? But no, you're not. You know, you go on YouTube and you find top 10 shanks in PGA Tour, you'll find out that they shank the ball too, right? So first of all, it's understanding in golf or anything else that you're not alone. Everybody, this struggle is consistent in other people's lives and other players' lives. And then from there, I just kind of just started rehearsing my mechanics in my head. What created that horrible shot? Oh, yeah, you probably got too quick. The club probably got stuck behind you. You know, you didn't aim properly. You know, you thought you were aimed correctly, but you weren't. You were aimed at the water. Good job, idiot. Now the ball is wet. Now you got, now you're dropping. You know, it's just rerunning through my mechanics in my head to refocus for the next shot, and then also remembering that it's just something that happens. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So after you kind of learn from that last shot, then what are you thinking about as you approach the next shot?
More than anything else, not making one error become three. You know, especially if you've hit water, if you've hit an OB, now your scorecard for that particular hole is already suffering. So it's minimizing the damage. So, for example, for me, if I'm 90 yards out and there's a lot of room to work with, say it's a pretty quick fairway, instead of, you know, if I have a tough lie, instead of trying to hit a lob wedge from 90 and from a tough lie and might blade it and create a bigger issue, you know, I'll just pitch, bump, and run it under green and trust myself to make a putt, you know, minimizing the damage.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
not,
that makes me think of Billy Connors, the old pitching coach for the Yankees. He talks about how with his pitchers, he likes to see if you give up four, you're definitely not going to give up five.
yeah.
You know, and it's the same. That's kind of what that reminded me of right there. Was like, hey, if I messed up here, it doesn't mean that like I'm gonna get even tougher. Kind of like adversity makes me stronger type of thing,
Hmm.
and then I'm gonna make sure that like I don't mess up the next one and minimize the damage and get back to like playing how I do want to play.
Absolutely.
And just I like how you even brought it up, like, and trust myself to make a good putt, or trust myself to do what I have to do to get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can relate that to baseball as well, you know, because, you know, the kids that say they struck out 3 times in a row, or they've had 2 games where they're 0 for 8, or 0 for 4, excuse me. So they're 0 for 8, 0 for 9 on the week. And they're trying to get out of that slump by hitting a home run or hitting a double. And it's just a downward spiral because you're pressing too much. So it's like, minimize the damage. How about you focus on making solid contact right now? How about you just focus on hitting a cool line drive up the middle, or even a duck fart into right field? Whatever, back into the positive side of the box score, and then you can build from that. You know, and that's another thing that a lot of kids struggle with. They think I got to get out of a slump by hitting a bomb. No, that you're putting too much pressure on yourself. All
Yeah,
right.
I like what you just said too, like simplifying down the process. You know, it's not about hitting a double or hitting a home run. It's just about putting putting the barrel on the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same. I mean, that's across all sports. You know, just simplify the process. I always say simplicity builds clarity, clarity builds confidence, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like the goal of all sport, of all, like, just life, is to have more confidence, really. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, you create clarity around your plan, and then, like, to create clarity, you just simplify it down. I always say like 1 to 3 things max.
Oh
And
yeah.
what I found is that the best in the world actually are really only thinking about one thing.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
whether that's putting the barrel on the ball, or you know, just staying through it, or maybe they just see an image in their head, or maybe it's just a feeling of them having a smooth swing or something like that. Like,
Yeah. That's absolutely true. That's what I tell the kids. Even like I said, when you reverted back to golf, it's just your brain. You got some people or some kids, and they'll just be like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do this with my elbow, I got to do this with my feet. I'm like, dude, your brain cannot process that in time. You'll be too busy thinking about all that stuff, and the pitches bite you. Simplify it. What is the most important thing you need to focus on right now? What is your number one fault right now? Have that dialed in when you're at the plate, all right? Or when you're going through your practice progression. And then when you dial that in, then we move on. When you relate it to golf, what's that one swing thought that you need to remember the most? You can't remember 5, then you're going to hit the ball to the right somewhere and kill somebody in the crowd, Simplify it. What do you need to focus? What's the most important thing to focus on at this particular moment?
Yeah. Have you ever read Ronnie Ortegon's book, The Hitter's Discipline?
I have not.
Well, he talks about that. He talks about like just having one swing thought the entire time, and like just coming up with that one thing that you need to be telling yourself over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And but actually in that book, the end of the book, his last story is about, we talked about that hunger, that drive to just win and be the best. And at the end of his book, he talks about how he was playing in the minors in the Midwest League, where they're traveling all the time. And like, there's not a road trip under like 6 hours or something like that. And they roll into the hotel at 2 a.m. They all get their cards, they go to sleep. Like a half hour later, he wakes up to just this like rhythmic pounding against the wall in the room next door to him. And he goes over, and there's these 2 Dominican dudes that he knew was sleeping over there. He's like, oh my gosh, now I got to wake up, go hold my teammates accountable,
Yeah.
And he rolls over there, he knocks on the door. A third guy opens up the door, and he sees that they took the bed and tilted it up against the wall, and they were taking soft toss into the bed at like 3 or 4 a.m. because they had to get their work in. And like they couldn't go to bed until they figured out their swing, kind of like how you were just saying. And he's like, that's the difference between those guys and me, like that's why I didn't make it and they did, because like they had that drive to just keep going no matter what. And if it was 3 a.m. and they had to get their work in, well, they were going to get their work in. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I've never heard that before, but that's exactly kind of like what we've been talking about here the whole time, is like getting down to that's one swing thought, but then also that hunger to just be great.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. That's funny.
But I was like, that is one of the best stories I've ever read in my entire life. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you getting on with me today.
It's been a pleasure, man.
And yeah, if you're ever over in the Denver area, or I'm actually moving back to Chicago in April.
Okay.
But hit me up. I'd love to go get lunch or something. And then, yeah, if I'm in the Bay Area, I'm definitely gonna. Before I know it, I'll probably be seeing you on the PGA Tour or something like that. Getting these dubs and whatnot.
Yeah, be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother.
All right. What's I always end the call with this question. What's your number one takeaway from our little discussion?
Just the importance of teaching kids the right mental approaches to the game. Like I said, as a coach, I see it far too often with, all the private coaches and things like that, where it's so much of a physical focus that they forget to remind these kids the importance of hard work, overcoming adversity, being accountable, being great leaders, representing yourself and your community well. Just always remember to teach these kids how important it is to teach these kids to be strong mentally, because it will carry over in their baseball game and it will carry over in life.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you, Melvin. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you, man.
All right. We'll talk soon. See ya.
Later.